indeed, folks, it is the illusion of choice. Yes. Right, okay. I've been looking through the illusion of choice questions. If I'm totally honest, most of them were rubbish. Thankfully, there are a few that I would like to talk about. This one comes in from Alexander, also known as LagX. And he says this: Hello, Total Biscuit. I think that you should take a few minutes to talk about the dynamic elements of WoW, or their lack. The lack thereof, I think. As a PvPer, I have the impression that WoW lacks a lot of dynamic content, so I have an idea that could improve on this. At the moment, any major change in the Alliance or Horde war is done in either an expansion or a major patch. Why can't there be a change, say, once a week? For example, one week the Horde will decide to launch an attack on Teldrassil. Oh, wow. Teldrassil? Okay. And people will be able to queue up for dungeons that will take them to Teldrassil and fight against the opposite faction. The faction that wins the most battlegrounds or something like that will control the area for a while until the other faction takes it back. All this does not, of course, have to be decided by PvP alone. It can be decided by a number of NPCs in each faction that will take place in the battle. Well, I like the idea of dynamic content. I just don't think that that's particularly dynamic. I mean, that is just going into a dungeon. If we go back to the point that was made earlier, the idea of people not going into the world anymore, if you take something like that, then actually you're not making the world more dynamic at all. And it's cool that there's like an Alliance versus Horde thing really going on there, but I feel that for a really dynamic world to exist, things have to actually happen out inside the world. And you've got to be forced to go to various places. And yeah, it is forced, really, isn't it? If you want to partake in that kind of thing. You don't have to. You do not have to. I would like to go back to the opening of the Anchorage gates. And now some of the old school players are going to turn around and shout at me because they're going to say that is absolutely terrible. And to some degree, you were correct. However, there are elements there that could be taken and improved. Now, if you want a dynamic world event, then what you need is to encourage people to go back to certain areas. Now, the way you could do that is you can actually use the archaeology system, or something similar to the archaeology system to do this. You could actually make... I mean, it's the kind of the point with archaeology, isn't it? Archaeology was kind of designed to get people to go out in the world again, I think. I mean, that seems to be what it does. I mean, that's why the archaeology stuff's all over the place, right? That's got to be the design goal behind it, surely. So why can't you take that system and adapt it? Why can't you have things appear in various different zones that you can pick up and collect, and that will cause you to go to an area? Or perhaps there might be a war going on in a particular zone that you have to get involved in. Again, start nicking elements from Rift that nicked elements from WoW and from Warhammer Online. Have an invasion somewhere that you have to go fight, and if you go and partake in it... I think that this is what WoW has to do, and they've got to accept it and stop trying to hide it, because WoW has stolen elements. I say stolen, you know, it's not like they really belong to those games, but they've taken elements from so many different games to make a really good whole. Why not take some more? Why not take public questing? And the thing about public questing is that you've got this opportunity to reward people for various levels of participation, regardless of what level they are, which is very cool. And you also have the opportunity to create dynamic events within the world using that. And this whole idea of world events, it got mentioned actually back in Wrath. It's like Blizzard like, oh yeah, we want to do way more of those. Did they? No. The events that they do are incredibly static. We're talking about things like, say, the Lunar Festival and the whatever the hell the Love is in the Air thing is here. That isn't dynamic content, that's the same content year in, year out with some minor tweaks, and I don't know about you, but I'm goddamn bored of it. So, that is not the kind of thing that I personally would like to see. However, there are opportunities for dynamic content if they nick elements from other games. Like, say, Warhammer Online did it very, very well with the public questing system, and Rift has made that more dynamic by making things open up in various areas and you have to get involved in that fight. So you're encouraged to go back into the world and seek out content. And there's a number of other things, actually. There's a system very similar to archaeology within Rift that actually gets people back into the world as well and exploring, finding artifacts and stuff like that. So that's something that WoW could steal back, as it were. I mean, Rift took so much from WoW anyway. WoW should just turn around and steal it right back from Rift. Why not? Why not? There's nothing stopping them from doing so. The idea of dynamic content in Alliance vs. Horde is really cool. I think, was it the first or maybe even the second episode of Blue Please Ever, which was back in 2005, I was talking about the idea of having more dynamic content, and the fact that the world was static, and that was a bad thing. See, even back then, I was bitching about the game. People keep saying, oh, we became so cynical in the last couple of years. Bollocks, did I? My god. you can listen to them. Well, you can't listen to them now because the new site has the archives down at the moment. They will be back up, don't worry. But back then, I was decrying the lack of dynamic content in the game as well. You can take all of these different elements. There's been lots of stuff throughout WoW's history that can actually be combined to a very effective dynamic world. Like, for instance, the idea of the opening of the Anchorage gates, which required the acquisition of various things, yeah? So, how about they implemented that? How about they implemented systems whereby, they were gathering for some kind of war effort or whatever? Why not put that in there? And of course, make it so that it encourages you to go back to other areas of the world. So, for instance, they need certain artifacts and certain resources that cannot be bought. They're BOP. And you could get them from all sorts of places. You could go into dungeons to get them, you could PvP to get them. We need 1,000 elf ears to make elf ear casserole. Why not? Why not? The war chief is hungry. Something like that. Something like that would work. It's going to be a big mix-up of all of these different aspects from different games and from WoW's history to make something truly dynamic. WoW, that's been, I think, WoW's biggest failing up to this point. There is no dynamic content. None. None at all. There is binary content. For instance, the Isle of Conquest or, say, whatever the hell the other thing is, Tolbarad. That can change hands, but really, it's about it. It's about it. That's not dynamic, that's binary. I would like to see encroachments, I would like to see attacks, I would like to see settlements actually driven out, and that is going to involve nicking things from other games. Because, Blizzard's never done that before. They're very shy about this, as you can see. Pfft, please. Blizzard is one of the most derivative companies in the world, and that is not a bad thing. For God's sake, StarCraft, so nicked from Warhammer, it just doesn't even... Warhammer 40,000. There was actually some rumours that there was a settlement between Games Workshop and Blizzard, which actually delayed the production of StarCraft by such a long time because Games Workshop sued them. Because they just nicked so many elements, and they do that, and that's okay! It's alright! It's okay, they can do that. It's fine. I don't mind derivative games as long as they're really good. As long as they're really polished and they're awesome. That's what I want. What I want. So steal things from Rift, because Rift has some good ideas. Steal things from Warhammer Online, steal things from Aeon, steal things from whatever the hell you want. Just make the game better. I don't care where it comes from, as long as it makes the game better. Nobody else cares where it comes from. You'll have people bitch you on the forums about it, but they're going to unsub over it? Hell no. Absolutely not. Oh my god, he copied off Rift. Well, you were going to go to Rift anyway, right? Now you can have Rift in your wonderful, wonderful World of Warcraft, and you don't have to unsub, and you can keep your character. Yay! I hate you! I continue to subscribe. Yay! Stuff! I secretly hate you. Oh, please. More like you secretly loves them for it, and will go out of their way to be outspoken and say, oh, no, that's terrible. Blizzard's stealing more ideas. Nobody cares. Nobody of any worth, anyway. Why would you care? Really. Okay, folks. I think we're about done for the day. Thank you very much for listening to Blue Please. We've got shout-out time. You can email into themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. Do that. Or you can tweet me if you so desire. Send me a tweet. Twitter.com/TotalBiscuit is the place to go for that. Or you can send me a message over IRC. IRC.quakenet.org, # or pound #CynicalBrit is where we're hanging around for this one. We'll do a few shout-outs towards the end of the show, and of course we will then cap it off, and then I have things to do, people to see. I've got to get Azeroth Daily finished, and I might play a bit more Homefront. I know, Homefront is kind of growing on me. Unfortunately, it's not growing on me the way that I want it to grow on me. It's growing on me like a fungus. It really is. Kind of thing that I can't really get rid of. But it does have its moments. It has its moments, and I'll give you a full view of that at some point in the not too distant future. Okay. Let's see him, folks. Let's see him. Get him in here. Many shoutouts. Shout out to Lunacy on Karazhan EU. Menu Guild for being wonderful. Also to Zoe, who has been great on trying to help to move to the UK. That's from Mahai. A shout out to VTWProductions.com and the guys over there. Thanks for providing the service, as well as Nat. Thanks to him and the guys over at Nordisil Radio for helping out. Very much appreciated. Can I get a shout out to Prometheus on Shoe Halo US and Sephiroth for listening for the first time. It would make my day. That's from Chris. And can I get a shout out to Amonis Hieroglyphica on Khadgar EU for doing all this work to slay heroic raid bosses after defeating the sadistic Nefarian normal encounter. That's from Sarax. A shout out to Dragon Age 2 for having better gameplay but not an amazing story as Dragon Age Origins. Varric for the win. Yes, Varric indeed for the win. That's from Clankio. I don't know, the gameplay's okay, but I don't like the fact that we get respawning waves and the fact that the difficulty's all over the goddamn place. That would be nice. A shout out to, this is from Sincerity, a shout out to my hot wife, who is now getting into WoW, and my Alliance Guild, Guardians of Valor. All is right in the world. Speaking of hot wives, shout out to my hot wife, who's just got the new Cynical Brit website up and is doing all manner of great things for the site. Thank you very much. A shout out to Schism on Darkspear EU for being the worst mage ever. That's from Elixir. And can we get a shout out to you, Total Biscuit, for all the shiny new content you give us free of charge, and the great entertainment you give us, and the listening players. Well, if you want to show appreciation for that, I can say one thing. Please turn off your... Well, don't turn off your ad blocker necessarily, but please whitelist cynicalbrit.com and youtube.com/totalhalibut. That's the thing that you can do to support us the most. It really, really helps out. Seriously, it does. You don't even have to click the ads. It's a common misconception that people have to click ads. You really don't. As long as you're viewing them, it's cool. So please whitelist us. That would be very much appreciated. We do understand that advertising can be annoying, but it's also the only way we get to eat. So it's, you know, it's a little bit hardcore that way. Right, what other shout-outs do we have? A shout-out to Werazard at Shout Out Hand EU and my awesome current guild, Victus. Can I get a shout-out to the Templar Knights, the best guild ever, and my friends David and Will. That's from Wildfire. Shout-out to Cat's Pajamas for being an awesome StarCraft 2 caster. That's from Callaghan. And a shout-out to Ibix5 for listening to past episodes. Well, congratulations. Shout out to Stellar Winds on Twisting Nether EU. You're a great bunch of people. Thanks for making the guild what it is right now. It comes from Thoe and a something or other. A shout out to you and everyone else who helped on the new website. Thank you very much and great work. That's from Hansen SE. I'd like to give a shout out to all the guys that I met over in Sweden during the Helefti... do I have the button? I do! I don't even have to pronounce it for me. This guy is eternally humiliated.
We left you.
That's where I was, folks, yes. All of the folks over in...
We left you.
Who I met up with a meetup. There was like 35 people there. It was absolutely fantastic. Thanks a lot for showing up for that. You guys are awesome. Shout out to Jonah. Thanks for introducing me to Machine Eye Supremacy. No problem at all. Go watch their newest music video from the Machine Eye Supremacy channel. It's pretty awesome. A shout out to the Guild Arcanium on Hydral US from Skylar Drake at Day Shout Out for Fun. Spinebreaker EU. Without you, I would have never survived Wrath. That's from Azo. And a shout out to Aloon's Icy Shadow for pulling an impossible 19.5k heal per second in half blues and having the worst name for a druid ever. That's from Magar. Oh, yes. Couple more, I think. Couple more. A shout out to the Hungering Cold and the Defiance Brotherhood EU for getting to the last phase of Heroic Nefarian 25 on our first night, and also for getting our first 2 recruits since Cataclysm launch. P.S. Second Gurubashi Empire, the Troll RP Guild, is starting to make things happen. We shall all tremble before the superior might of the Trolls. That's from your killer. Oh, yes, indeed. And one more, I think. A shout out to the GG button for giving us eternal entertainment. Shout out for you for singing that question in the style of Inspector Gadget. I'm some star swinger. Nobody cares about Moonkins, folks. Nobody cares about Moonkins. GG! Hip. I'm out of here. Thank you very much. As always, go check out the new website if you haven't already over on cynicalbrit.com. And please remember to subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. And, of course, to the podcast feed. And there you go. More content will be coming your way, folks. That is what I literally live to do. I live to serve right now. I'm a bit of a dreadnought. Yes. Eternally eager for battle. I'm out of here, folks. What can we end this one on? What can we end this one on? It's a great question, isn't it? There are so many wonderful tracks. So many. But I know only one that is suitable for the end of this show. My name has been Total Biscuit. Good night.